You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday. It's time for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor, as it has been every single Wednesday since Valentine's Day 2014. If there was a little sign on my forehead, it would say EST for established 2014, and people would go, "You don't look 4 years old," and then I would say, "I'm not, but the show is." I'm a little loopy today. I'm on cold medicine, everybody, in case you couldn't tell. But this is Ken Reed, as always, your host here for TV Guidance Counselor, the show where we use old editions of TV Guide magazine to open the doorway to the memories of our collective television viewing past. And that's exactly what I do with my guest today. My guest is someone whose work I've loved for years and years, and you likely have too, Mr. Mark Waid. Mark was the creator of Elseworlds at DC, so things like Gotham by Gaslight. Also wrote Kingdom Come with amazing Alex Ross artwork. Is just a comic book genius as a writer, but also an oracle of comic book continuity. He's written things like Daredevil and Captain America and a lot of other things like that. He is absolutely, without question, the world's leading Superman expert. There is no one who even comes close, and there is some Superman talk here. And I just loved talking to Mark. I could have talked to him all day. A lot of comic book talk here, in addition to television and the overlap of the two, which makes sense. I am a lifelong comic book fan. I don't talk about it nearly enough on the show, or at least I don't think so. Maybe you think I talk about it too much in what little I do. But if you're a comic book fan and you like television, this episode may be one of your favorites. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Mark Waid.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Mark Waid, how are you, sir?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm doing great.
Thank you for trekking up here
My pleasure.
I guess we're in Glendale,
We're in
technically.
sunny Glendale, California.
Yep. Whichever one kind of, when I said we were staying there, they were like, ugh.
No, you're far enough out where it's quiet, but you're close enough where there's cool stuff to do.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, there's people on horses just walking down the
It's
street.
a nice house.
It is. I don't know. This
Did
used
you
to be,
kill the occupants?
We
and take
did.
Over? Okay.
We did. Yes, we've. This used to be part of Betty Davis's ranch.
No.
Yeah, that gate is the original gate. And so this was all her ranch, and this was the coach house, I think they said. Betty Davis from Lynn, Mass.
It's one of my favorite things. I've lived in Los Angeles forever, and my favorite thing about it is that there's just casual celebrity everywhere.
Yeah.
Casual old. You'll live in a house for 5 years, and then somebody will say, "Oh yeah, that was Larry Storch's place," or whatever.
Yeah. It's I had Veruca Salt on the show once.
Yeah.
The band, not the actress who played her in Willy Wonka.
Right, yeah.
But I did have Mike TV on. Nina bought her house because the guy who wrote the Oh My Nose episode of The Brady Bunch lived in the house.
There you go.
But before that, it was Bela Lugosi's house.
Who knows?
And she was like, I didn't care about the Bela Lugosi.
That's great.
Yes. And she's like, he wrote it in that office where I have my studio, and I want the Oh My Nose guy. I'm like, perfect.
I'm not sure that's going to give you the inspiration you need, but
Probably not.
But you take your muse wherever you can, right?
Yeah, whatever you get excited about.
Exactly.
So you've been on here a long time, but you grew up in Alabama?
I grew up in rural Alabama.
Okay.
Man. So it's good that we stuck to prime time. We had no syndicated programming. 2 was CBS, 4 was ABC, 7 was NBC, 13 was PBS. That's it. So there was no, until I was a teenager, did we hit like cool old movies.
UHF stuff.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What was the closest city that like the stuff was coming
Birmingham.
out of? So Birmingham.
The general Birmingham area growing up, yeah.
So you would get Birmingham network stations.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, they're not probably even producing a lot of local stuff, I imagine, right?
No, we're not, yeah.
Like no local kids cartoon host on the afternoon.
No, exactly, yeah. You get Captain Kangaroo and you'd like it.
Yeah. You don't even get a franchised romper room.
No.
Yes.
Exactly. Bozo the Clown is like not a guy down the street. He's like the real Bozo the Clown.
My favorite thing about the Boston Romper Room was they lost their franchise for corruption. They were.
What? How do you steal chalk? What do you graft out of?
It's so Boston. They were making unauthorized Romper Room merchandise, and they would spend most of the show just hawking the stuff to kids. And so when the word got back to the real Romper Room headquarters, they were like, "Oh hell no!
That's
what are you doing?"
Hysterical. difficult.
And so they lost their franchise, which is just perfect.
Yeah.
It's a perfect Boston thing. So we picked one here from it's August 31st, actually, 1968.
Yeah.
When you were a young boy in Alabama. Were you watching TV with your parents?
Yeah,
Or
I was just 6 years old, but I was also, my kid sister at that point was like 1 year old, and all the tension was going there. So basically it's just, here's the TV. Just sit down and make yourself comfortable, Mark. And,
She's crying.
She's crying. Well, yeah, you entertain yourself, young man. Yeah.
Was there anything that you weren't allowed to watch? Like, were there rules outside of that, or were they pretty lax with?
Pretty lax, but again, but it's 1968. There wasn't anything like Ironside was the most edgiest thing on television. Exactly. So, it was not that it was. I had a hard bedtime of like, I want to say 10 o'clock back then, which actually probably 9 o'clock. But again, we're looking at the Eastern. You gave me the Eastern time, so I adjusted the times for that. So I would have been out by 9 o'clock. But that gave us the good 6:30 at that point to 9 would have been prime time.
I mean, I was always jealous of you lucky Central people.
Yeah.
Because you could get the 10 o'clock show at 9. You get an extra hour.
That's right.
And I would be in bed. I'd miss the 10 o'clock.
Poor son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, man. And there's no downside either, because it's not like, you're missing what's on at 3 or something earlier in the day. No. So would you go in the first night here? Saturday, August 31st.
I kicked in at like, it says 8 o'clock in yours. It would have been, so we'll have to adjust down. It would have been 7 o'clock in mine. And we were a big TV game show family, as I recall. So we would have been Newlywed Game all the way.
Which I guess 1968, it might have started getting a little risque.
In retrospect, it was a tiny bit risque back then. It was. I love that show, if only for. I mean, you've heard Chuck Barris talk about like inventing it and the lesson he learned about why they're crappy prizes.
No. I didn't know that one.
There's a reason, because when you're watching as a kid, you're like, you go through all of this to win like
Rice-A-Roni.
You go through all this to win like a refrigerator, and like in other game shows, people are winning big, giant cars and stuff. And even as a kid, I thought, well, that's pretty rinky-dink, especially what you have to go through. Chuck Barris talks about this in his autobiography. He says, in the first, the trial shows, they get big prizes.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, the problem is then the couples are cutthroat.
Oh,
then
I see.
It's really easy to laugh at your wife's bad answer if all that's up for it is a can opener.
We're not going to be able to pay off our mortgage.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
it's a totally different
that
thing.
car, you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
You're sleeping on the couch for the rest of your life.
That makes so much more sense.
So it made the tone of the show just got ugly.
Stakes, but low stakes.
Yeah, low
That's
stakes,
what you
exactly.
Want. Yeah,
Keep it light.
But you go. I'm fascinated by Let's Make a Deal because Monty Hall is doing that all on the fly.
I know.
I don't know how, and he doesn't have an earpiece in. Like he's literally, like I'm sure they gave him an outline.
Right, but still.
But he's doing it on the fly, and they would have pretty sizable prizes on that show.
And it was just, you're right. And again, now my memory is that at that point, not everyone was dressed in a chicken costume.
No, it started later because people showed up to get noticed.
Right, exactly. But it was, I was watching that too, and I was fascinated by, like you said, the rapid fire. Like he was on it.
Yeah. He's like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna change this game.
Yeah.
And now we'll change it to this, and then it would just go with it. And it makes me almost anxious, especially the sort of like hosted things and stuff. You're like, they're just okay. And I picture the control room.
Oh,
like,
I know.
No.
You're backstage, they're freaking out, running around.
What are you doing?
Curtain now becomes curtain 1, now becomes curtain 2. What do we do?
But I thought of it because my wife, to the sort of same point you're making with the Newlywed Game, is she can't watch that show because she feels so bad for the contestants because they're so desperate.
I know.
When it's like, you could win 10 grand, they're like, I need this so bad. And you're like, oh, this is just depressing now.
No, I need my heart medicine.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to get a zonk then.
Grandma's going to get in a home, and it's like, sorry, you got a giant donkey. We can't use that.
I know.
Someone who was on the 80s show that I knew was a contestant told me this, and it was kind of great, but also was kind of ruined it for me, was that the studio, you couldn't show up in a costume.
Okay.
I don't know why. I guess maybe security.
I don't like where this is going.
You rent a costume from them.
On the spot.
They had like a costume shop.
That's no fun.
Yeah, like what is the point of that? Yeah, because some of those costumes you're like, that is a really good costume.
There's no room for spark of creativity there.
No.
And I didn't. Thanks.
I ruined it for you.
Thanks for ruining it.
You're welcome. That's it. We're done now.
I'm dropping the mic.
This is an intervention to ruin Let's Make a Deal for you.
That's right. Enjoy your 14-minute podcast.
When you ever watched, this is interesting, E.G. Marshall and Ed Begley are on Doce Homás El Colare against the Newlywed Game. So you're getting Spanish Channel stuff here. Henry Fonda. What movie is that? Is that Spanish?
Good question.
It looks like Portuguese.
I don't know. Is it I don't know. Is it Defenders, something like that?
Something Home in... I can't even... It's from 1957. It's a movie with Henry Fonda, Lee Cobb, E.G. Marshall, Ed Begley, and Jack Warden.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I got nothing either. I don't know, but it's in a foreign language. And before, at 7:30, the Newlywed Game was on, and I only bring it up because Erwin Corey is a guest.
Professor Erwin Corey.
He seeks a date.
Okay.
He's the one trying to get a date on the show.
That seems sad to me, but okay.
Well, a lot of people told me a lot of actors would show up on the dating game, especially because you would get a day rate.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was union.
Yep.
So they're like, haven't got a gig in a while.
But I'm going to be Adam West. I'm going to be on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And The Prisoner was on.
That freaked me out. Because, again, like I said, we didn't have syndicated shows when I was a kid. It wasn't until I was about 9 that I ran across, I was out of town, and I ran across a syndicated station.
Yeah.
And the first thing I see is The Prisoner.
Oh, God.
And it wigged me out. I had
should.
no idea. Not only is it a weird show, but it's so out of tune with American primetime.
Yeah.
That it rattled me to I love the show now, but it rattled me to this day.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a and I think I'd seen Secret Agent Man first.
Yeah.
And so it because intentionally so, it was almost kind of the same character in the same show.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, which made it even weirder because I'm like, what the hell is this?
Oh, so you got the double continuity then? That's
a little bit, like because they used to air Man in a Suitcase, Man from U.N.C.L.E., and Secret Agent Man.
Yeah.
Like during the day when I was a kid.
So you're all the man guys.
Yeah, so I had all the 3 men.
Yeah.
And then I caught, and I was like, is he playing the same guy? I'm just, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And this one is interesting because it has a weird editorial little note here from TV Guide where after it gives you the rundown and who's in the cast, it says, The Prisoner shows how to be a success while being a failure.
What a strange slug of information.
Why is that even in there?
Editorializing. I don't even know what to say.
That's very strange.
It's a very odd thing to say.
Go ahead, sorry.
People did the code. I was looking through this too, and I forgot sort of the code of the TV guide, like the physical code of it. That color shows had to be identified in color back then, and that white, black on white numbers meant different than black on white or white on black numbers, right? It was like there were local stations versus
network versus local. Yeah. It's a very weird sort of jargon that's been lost over the years, and it's funny when I've had people on who are born in 1995 or some weirdness like that. They look at this like I've literally given them something in a completely foreign language.
It's like the Da Vinci Code.
They're like, what? How do I? But it comes back to you much more quickly than you think it will.
Yep.
Like, I know this exactly.
That was worth the trip out here alone, man. Just to
have it come back,
revisit and remember. Oh yeah, you could watch Beverly Hillbillies on a Thursday at local, but you had to watch it on Tuesday. But it would always say, see previous entry for the
right. Yeah. And you had to move the antenna, and it might not come in as well. And
God, moving an antenna.
Even when we had cable in the 80s, Boston Station had a weird thing where they had paid a ton of money to get Cosby Show reruns.
Yeah.
So they used to preempt primetime a couple nights a week and not show some shows and show a rerun of Cosby.
That's a crime.
It was crazy. So like I think it was Friday night, they wouldn't show that Perfect Strangers. And at 9:30, they'd show an old Cosby. And I used to have to unplug the cable and plug in and try to get a Providence station.
That's funny.
For, of all things, Perfect Strangers. But
I'm not sure your time was well spent.
No. But it was more like, well, that's a new show. I've already seen this.
I've seen this.
It was very weird. And I've never found another market that did that.
I don't think I know of any other market. Yeah.
They must have just got a terrible deal on that. Like, well, we paid this much money. We better friggin' air it.
You're going to watch it.
So what'd you do at 8:30? You did the Newlywed Game at 8, and then at 8:30.
We did My Three Sons.
I could never get into it.
It was a dreadful show, but here's the thing. There are 2 things to bear in mind. First, several things. First off, again, 4 stations, one of them PBS, so my choices were limited.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm 6 years old. My discriminatory taste is questionable.
Yeah.
And third, we were also a sitcom fan. I was a sitcom kid. I was never magnetized towards the dramas, the hour-long stuff. I was always zeroing in on the sitcom stuff, and that stuff, as well performed as it was for the day, as you know, is unwatchable now.
Yeah, some of it holds. Like I've come around to like Donna Reed, weirdly.
Really interesting.
It was always on Nick at Night when I was a kid, and I hated it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't fun.
No.
It wasn't like Car 54.
No, it doesn't star anybody really
Yeah,
cool.
miserable. But I've started revisiting it in the last couple of years because it's on like every morning on MeTV or something.
Okay.
And it's actually pretty well done. The acting is good. The stories are pretty good. It's not as good as Leave It to Beaver, which is another show I hated and revisited and really liked. But Donna Reed's very good in it. She basically plays a lunatic. Like she's just like completely unreasonable and crazy. And there's amazing guest stars. There's an episode with Harold Lloyd.
That's cool.
And there's one with a bunch of silent movie stars just pop up at the end of their life in that show.
You know what's good about that? I mean, the other thing that's attractive is, again, they were hard to watch. They move like glaciers now.
Yeah.
But the common thread is there was a sincerity. There was a heart in all of those shows that was, I want to believe, still genuine and not sort of cynically generated to be sappy, but instead I think there was a genuine heart there, a genuine attempt to tell stories that were positive and good and preached decent values, whatever.
I agree, and it wasn't. We got very cynical in the 80s, I think, when that stuff was rerunning of this saccharine. That's not the way things really were, but then it's come back around where you go, well, it's okay if that's not the way things really were. They were kind of trying to be an idealistic thing.
I honestly believe that cynicism is like the worst byproduct of human nature. I have no use for cynicism whatsoever. So I would rather be trapped in a hotel room in the snow, having to watch My Three Sons over and over again, than watch something that is just cynical and dark. Maybe it's more entertaining, but I don't need that.
Like a lot of the new like golden age of television shows, I'll have them on a pile and I'm like, this is gonna bum me out so much.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just have this sense of dread and doom for every horrible thing that's gonna happen to these people.
Yep.
And I don't want that. Like sometimes I want Leave It to Beaver. And there's a great, as like a big Monster Kid fan, there's a great episode in the later seasons where him and his friends buy like Ed Big Daddy Roth style monster sweatshirts and wear them to school and get kicked out of school.
That's right. Well, so what holds up? Sitcom time. For me, Andy Griffith Show still holds up immensely.
Yep. That's a sweet show.
I could watch one of those for the rest of my life every day.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, my wife, who grew up in England, on Netflix.
And it becomes Maybery R.F.D. and skids into the wall.
That is not good.
Yeah.
She's just started watching that recently and loves it.
Oh, that's great.
Loves it because
I
it's
would
just
love
so
to hear
sweet.
her 2 cents on this.
Loves it. Every night, getting ready for bed, she'll throw Andy Griffith on. But having grown up in sort of small town South,
that's it, dude. I mean, I'm sure that's part of my attraction to it to this day, is in the sense of nostalgia, that this is the way people talked, and this is the way people reasoned, and this is the way people could be kind to each other in a relatively small rural town. That I could watch forever. Don Knotts, Pound per Pound, the funniest guy in 60s television by far.
The Love God. Have you ever seen?
Oh my God, he's amazing.
That movie is the most neglected, funniest movie of the 60s, and you could remake it without changing a word of the script.
Now, what is it like to be an actor who is known for being a nebbish, known for being like a scared little guy? It's not the most flattering thing in the world.
No, and you have to be aware.
You have to be aware that you're kind of playing a type.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the level of self-assurance and self-confidence you must have in yourself to be able to be seen by all of America as a dope.
Yep.
Or worse, like a little skinny little, clingy little, scared little man.
Although he never played a creep.
That's
true. He never played like a little perv. Or, Mr. Furley maybe, because he's kind of like horny all the time. Yeah. But he's not he's never a bad guy.
Right,
he's just a nerd. I think with him that might be the thing. He's always has a good heart, no matter what he is.
Exactly.
Maybe. And kind of just leaned into I'm a character actor. I imagine he would have to think.
You'd have to. At some point, you'd have to go, I'm never going to be a leading man.
Yeah.
Unless it's,
the Love God.
The Love God.
Ghost of Mr.
What's
Chicken.
the other one? The Mr. Fish and...
Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Thank you, yes. But other than that, you're not going to be a...
Yeah, and he did really... he was a big box office draw for a while.
And he had a career. He didn't have any real downtime that I can remember. My memory is he jumped from there to doing a bunch of Disney films, Apple Dumpling Gang and stuff in the 70s, and then moved back for Three's Company.
Yeah.
And then actually had some Matlock time as a recurring character there. I don't remember him actually ever going off the grid for any length of time.
I don't either. And then I think the last thing he did was Pleasantville.
Yeah.
And he's really great
he's
in
so
it.
good in
And
that.
it's such a perfect
Yep.
role. That movie, again, is one that got a kind of a buzz when it came out because it was unusual. And then just nobody ever talks about it.
I know people don't talk about it. I love
cool
that
movie.
movie. I was in love with that movie.
And it managed to be nostalgic without being too sappy. And it critically looked at exactly what we're talking about.
And yet it was
not cynical.
It was not cynical, exactly. It was preaching anti-cynicism. It was preaching sincerity over cynicism.
And somehow managed to show how the 50s became the 60s in like a really clever and natural way through a very odd conceit.
All right, I know what I'm rewatching.
I know. I feel like I need to rewatch it as well. But yeah, shows that hold up. I absolutely love Car 54 and Phil Silvers. Those are the two.
Oh, absolutely, yes, yeah.
Because in Car 54 specifically, it's such a great ensemble cast. Nat Hinkins, a story genius, and those shows are Curb Your Enthusiasm, Seinfeld, the same building of misunderstandings, but really interesting, funny characters. Could get sweet at times. There's a Christmas episode where
I'm a sucker for Christmas episodes.
love
I
them.
watch any show that is a Christmas episode.
I'll have to share my Excel grids with you.
Actually,
I've made
please.
Excel grids of every Halloween, Christmas, and New Year's and Thanksgiving
Please
episode.
share. I've made my own list, but I'm sure yours is a lot more comprehensive.
I have some obscure ones in there, but the Car 54 one is a sort of Christmas subgenre of let's put on a show.
Yeah.
Which weirdly a lot of shows did.
Yeah. But Dick Van Dyke show.
Yeah, exactly. Because most of them came from vaudeville or radio, and weirdly the Car 54 one is that, and it's just called Christmas at the 54th, and it starts with they're in the precinct putting on a Christmas show, and they sing, and there's a magician, and there's no story. It's just their families watching it, and it's perfect. And then it ends so beautifully where they end the show, and then the phones start ringing, and they go back to police work because they don't get a day off.
That's great.
And it's just such a great moment that holds up.
Yeah.
Those definitely. Some episodes of like Bewitched, I really think hold up.
I think so. That was a big favorite of mine too. That would,
it's smart. It's weirdly smart.
It was a weirdly smart show. I also had, it was my first crush was on Elizabeth Montgomery. And I'm 6, so it was not a hormonal crush.
Yeah, it's just like she's pretty and cool.
She's pretty cool. I wish I could hang out with her. I wish I could be a boyfriend someday. I don't know what boyfriend means, but I wish I could be a boyfriend someday.
That's going to be great. Yeah, that show also managed to. I always facetiously describe Mad Men as if someone saw Bewitched and went, "Get rid of the witch, and you got a show."
Oh yeah,
it's the same exact show.
It is the same show
with just no witches.
You know what fascinates me about that show too is, again, now we're back to actors.
Yeah.
What is it like to be
the first Darren?
No, what's it like to be why am I blanking on the mother?
Oh, Agnes Moorehead.
What is it to be Agnes Moorehead? You were one of the Mercury players.
Yeah, an Oscar nominator. She even won.
Yes, and now you're playing a recurring character on a sitcom that is not. I mean,
it's not high art.
No, if you're listening to this show and you're not 30, then you don't understand that very much up until the early 2000s, right? Yeah. TV was still slumming.
Yep.
For any actor.
It was either, you were either at the beginning of your career or end of your career.
Right, exactly.
And I think she was just over that cusp of, I'm too old to be the lead actress in a movie. Because she seems like she's having a great time on
really
Bewitched.
does.
She's loving it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons she's so fun to watch on it.
Is it both Darrens who really didn't like the show, or is it what they're...
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
And it was never really about them, too, because the show's always better when they're not really in the plot.
Yeah.
So once you got normally when they introduce the kid to the show kind of goes downhill. That got better.
One. Yes, I know. That's a rare case where you bring it, because and I'm sure you've discussed this many times in your show, when they change apartments.
Yep.
When there is a kid.
Yep.
When they change their job. That's always the death knell, and it's going to be, you're in the last season right there.
I always, in relation to cartoons, and I don't think a live action show ever did this, but it illustrates the point best. I said, if you're ever in a band or you go to space, now we're done.
Now we're done.
Once they form a band
officially out of
in
ideas.
space, we are out of ideas.
Yep.
It's you're retooling the show too much, and I get it. Like most shows, if they go more than 5 seasons, get weird.
Yeah.
Because they've run out of things.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's great.
Sometimes it's awesome.
Newhart, the last 2 seasons.
Oh my God, that just becomes more and more bizarre.
So weird.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that wrote for Get a Life wrote on the last 2 seasons of Newhart.
I did not know that.
So David Merkin was the showrunner, and he brought like 3 or 4 writers with him. So the last 2-3 seasons of Newhart are basically Get a Life.
Yeah, they are. They're completely absurd comedy. It's no longer, yes.
A baby owns the TV station.
That's great.
Which all makes sense when it's all a dream.
Yeah.
And I've talked to people who worked on the show, and a lot of the times that stuff is just by chance. And Julia Duffy told me that they did know they were going to do that at the end.
Oh.
So they let them just go crazy.
Oh, that's going to loosen
season.
up everybody then.
Yeah.
That's great.
It gets nuts.
By the way, spoiler warning.
I know. Everyone who hasn't seen that show from 30 years ago. That is one of the best ending episodes of all time. Like,
I would say best. I'm trying to think. I can't think of a better button.
There's one that blew my mind more, but it wasn't as good a show.
Yeah.
It was a show called I Married Dora.
Okay.
And it was 1987. Elizabeth Pena was the first thing she did.
Yeah.
And actually Juliette Lewis was in it as well as a teenager.
All right.
And it was ABC. It was kind of a sitcom about this architect, because for some reason every third TV dad is an architect.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't think I've ever met someone who's actually an architect.
I've never met an architect in my life.
Nope, never met an architect. Never met anyone with a housekeeper.
Nope.
Let alone a live-in housekeeper.
Nope.
And he marries his housekeeper, who's Mexican, to stay in the country.
Sure.
So it's like that. That's the whole setup of the show. And the last episode, he's going away somewhere for work. She decides she really loves him, goes to the airport to tell him, gets to the airport terminal. He's just standing there with his bags.
Yeah.
And she goes, "What happened?" And he goes, "It's canceled." She goes, "Your flight's canceled?" He goes, "No, our show is canceled." And they pull back to show the
that's
audience
awesome.
and all the cameras. I was 7 and I was like, what the hell just happened? Blew my mind.
That's terrific.
It's fantastic.
I'm going to go spelunking. It's got to be.
Oh, it's online. Yeah, it's definitely
I'll
online.
find it, yeah.
And it reminds me the last episode of Brave and the Bold.
Oh, that was good. It's very self-referential.
Yeah.
It's like, here's, now we're going to celebrate our, 85th episode or whatever it was at that time. Yeah, no.
But it was such like a middle finger, too, because
Yep.
it was like,
Yes, it
nope,
was.
they have to cancel it
Yep.
for no reason.
No reason. Exactly. They were bitter about it, and it just came out in the episode. Like, how dare you cancel us just to put another dark Batman show on the air?
Right.
And we're going to give you the middle finger for 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I couldn't believe they got away with it. And it reminded me of when I worked in radio, they would never fire a radio DJ till after their shift.
Oh, that's very smart.
Because they're going to go on the air.
Yep.
So it was literally like, hey, we'll see you tomorrow. You're
Not
fired.
so much.
Yeah. Every time. And I saw it time and time
That's
again.
funny.
And at first I was like, that's brutal. But then I'm like, oh no, that's just
that
probably
makes
good
perfect
idea.
sense.
Yeah. And occasionally you can get those things in. The Prisoner, same thing.
Yeah.
That final episode is nuts. And
Every once in a while they would button it right. Again, if you know that you're going in for the last season, you can go for broke.
Yeah, unless when you're like Night Court, which they thought they were on the last season.
Yeah.
And they went nuts. And it ends. It's a definitive ending. And then the network goes, the show that we thought was going to replace you, we didn't like. And we technically have you for a contract for another season. And they made them do another season, and everybody's miserable. There were characters who died that they had to resurrect.
Right. You've flipped over all the cards.
Yeah.
At that point, you have nothing. You've left it on the field.
Yeah.
And now you got to come back and play another quarter.
Yeah.
That blows.
Yeah. So those hold up, and Barney Miller.
Yeah.
All
actually,
day,
yes.
Barney Miller. Not as old, obviously, but that show is the perfect writer's show.
I'm just thinking black and white shows. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, black and white.
Nat Hiken, like you said, was super underrated.
Yes, yeah. I think if you didn't die,
Dobie Gillis, I would argue.
Dobie Gillis, I like. Yeah,
it comes and goes. There are moments. It is not consistently funny, but it does hold up pretty well.
I think it's a good. I mean, obviously, I didn't know because I wasn't a teenager then, but it seems to be a pretty good image of teenagers at the time.
Yeah.
That they're not. Like, one of the things I love about Leave It to Beaver is the way the kids talk is really real.
Yeah.
It's weird. They're like anxious about odd things and have this sort of weird hierarchy, and it really captures that well.
That's fair to say, yeah.
And I don't think gets enough credit for that. And I do like that show, but like Beverly Hillbillies, no. Addams Family, absolutely.
Oh, in a heartbeat. I would watch that over and over again. Yeah.
So good. And John Astin just is a wonderful lunatic.
Just chewing the scenery right and left.
So
and he's
great.
just such a talented man.
So great. And the thing I loved about that, too, like, the monsters looked cool.
Right.
But it was just they look like monsters and it's a sitcom. That's it.
Exactly. This may as well have been your standard ABC sitcom, except the costumes are different.
Yeah,
Yes.
but the Addams Family, they were freaks and they loved it.
Yeah.
And they had so much money they didn't care about anything. It was just this weird.
You know what? The monsters were monsters trying to be in a human world.
Yeah.
The Addams Family was like, we're weird, you come to us.
Yeah. We don't understand you people.
Right. And that's your problem, not our problem.
Yeah. They have a great Christmas episode, one of my favorites.
That one is a good Christmas
where
episode.
they all dress up.
Yeah.
that one's fantastic. Always one that I recommend. Anything else on Saturday night?
On Saturday night, I would have done Hogan's Heroes and Petticoat Junction, but there's really nothing to be said about that.
No.
It's just, at that point, I'm burning time until I go to bed.
Yeah, The Junction, a far inferior show to Green Acres.
Sadly,
even
yes.
though it spun off from it.
Uncle Joe on the porch, moving kind of slow.
And you're too young to really enjoy the ladies.
I
on that
really
show.
am at that point. It's like Betty Hutton looking back. Oh my God.
Wow.
But yeah.
Yeah. Hollywood Palace is on that night too, and Bing Crosby is hosting. And that show fascinates me because, and someone will absolutely correct me if I'm wrong, as they always do.
Yeah.
But I believe it's the only variety show that had a rotating host every week.
That's interesting.
And it's really fascinating because the host set the tone for the show every week.
Right.
And we're used to that now with SNL.
Yeah.
But all the variety shows were based on who was hosting.
Oh, exactly. It wasn't a Toast the Town. It was the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yep.
It was not The Tonight Show. It was Johnny Carson.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so this was every week was a brand new show.
Yeah.
And I have one episode that I've collected that's Frankie and Annette hosting, and it's obviously all beach party stuff.
Of course.
But this one is Bing Crosby, and the lineup of people is very weird. Yeah. Sid Caesar, the King Sisters, Florence Henderson, who they have as singer Florence Henderson.
Okay.
Jazz pianist Joe Buskin, comic Gene Balos, the Rocking Every Mother's Son, and Bunraku, which are Japanese puppeteers.
I love this era of television. This is something for everybody. Yes. A legitimate variety of acts.
Florence Henderson singing a song and Japanese puppets.
And again, Florence Henderson, this would have been, this is 68, right? So 2 years before Brady Bunch? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, again, that's, and acrobats and puppeteers. And it's just, who's the comic again? It
was a comic I'd never heard of.
I was going to say, let's go down the list of names again so we can find the people who never win.
I'm gonna have to email my friend Cliff Nesteroff. I'm sure he knows. Gene Balos.
I vaguely know the name, but I couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
In a rock band, which sounds kind of psychedelic, but I feel like that would be far too hip, even though this is the era.
Yeah.
Called Every Mother's Son.
No, they had like one minor hit.
Yeah.
In 68, they nothing.
It doesn't even say what song they do, because normally in the older editions of TV Guide, tells you what song, and they don't even get a listing. It just says the King Sisters, Florence Henderson, Bing, and Joe. It says who sings songs, but not Every Mother's Son.
At least they were trying for rock music. My other favorite thing about 60s music, or 60s music and television, is especially on sitcoms.
Yes.
When they play rock and roll, it's an old man's idea of what they think rock and roll sounds like.
Yeah.
Which has a lot of brass in it. And stuff.
Yes.
It's very odd.
It's like that with probably not so much now because we don't have like a prominent youth genre, but every decade it's that like they would be like, oh, that damn rap band, and it would be not it at all, or like all the punk rock scare episodes, like the Quincy Punks episode and the Chips Punks episode, and it's like that's not what that is like.
Years and years ago, I saw the most amazing comedian. I cannot remember where it was. I cannot remember who it was. It was a live show.
Yep.
His whole act was doing the incidental music for all of the shows. And so you'd hear da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and you always that's Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
Like the interstitial stuff, not the theme song.
But everybody knew it, I bet.
Yeah. That's Gilligan's Island. We all know that.
There's an amazing one of the sketches on MST3K. It's a Joel one, and he invents a Vic Mizzy interstitial instrument, and it looks like a pig, but it's bagpipes, and it's just great. Like it's all the Vic. It's very funny. I don't know who any of these people are, and their music does not seem like something I would listen to now. And you passed up Lawrence Welk. Speaking of music,
I would have passed up. If I were stuck at my grandparents' house, I would have been watching Lawrence Welk. And again, I would have watched. all it had to be when I was that age was on TV. That's all it had to be.
Oh yeah, what would you wouldn't not watch TV?
Exactly. So it's Lawrence. I give the same weight to Hee Haw that I would to Batman. It's the same sort of not Batman, but
Did you have a color TV?
We had a color TV as of '67. I think I probably just whined and cried enough where I need to see Batman in color.
That's what I was gonna say, because that show. I've never tried to watch that in black and white, but I feel like it would be not really worth watching.
That's part of the reason that show was funded by ABC was to sell color televisions.
Yeah,
because that was the first season when a majority of the shows I think were in color. And again, we're talking to anybody who's under the age of 30 has no idea what we're talking about. Color and black and white shows on the same network.
When
back
did
to back.
sound come in?
Exactly. But
it was a big deal. Like a lot of people, you'd have maybe one house in the neighborhood
would have color
and
TV.
everyone would go over and watch the color shows.
Yes. I mean, with color. I mean, it was still like a 19-inch screen. I'm sure we were like glued to it. But yeah,
I guess you could show them Wizard of Oz and be like, this is what it was like for us.
Yes.
This was the difference.
Yep.
When she walks out of the house, that was watching Batman in 1966.
Yep.
Have you been to the exhibit down at the Hollywood
Not yet.
Museum?
I'm saving. My birthday's coming up next week, so I'm saving it for my birthday.
Happy pre-birthday. But
Thank you.
it's good.
I mean, it probably just kind of looks like a room of my house, frankly.
I bet. Yeah. There's doing a lot of cons, as I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
I've seen a good amount of the stuff they have, but there's enough stuff that I've never seen.
I'm dying to see.
Cool. And I'd never been to that museum, and they have like Pee-wee's Bike.
Oh, that's cool.
And they have the original It's a Mad, 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 Mad World ending with the scaffolding at the end. They have the little puppets, and there's some random cool stuff in there.
I don't know why I've lived here for almost off and on for 20 years and never been. But
you never go to the touristy things.
Really don't.
I don't think I've ever taken a duck boat on my own in Boston.
Yeah.
They also have, this is the weirdest thing, they have Roddy McDowall's bathroom.
Okay.
Because apparently at his house, the one room he had that he would have all his autographs and everything and all his photos was his bathroom.
Okay.
So when he died, they literally lifted the whole bathroom, window, toilet, sink. It's exactly his bathroom, just it's right near the Batman stuff. Actually, it's like right in the corner.
I will keep an eye out. That's fascinating.
You could almost argue it's part of the Batman exhibit, since he was, what was the character he was on
Bookworm.
Batman? Yes, Bookworm.
There's a guy with a career, by the way. There's a guy with an amazing thread of a career.
Yeah, he never stopped working.
And he was in the vast variety of shows. He was always the Weasel guy.
Oh, yeah.
But he could play that anywhere. He could play it on Columbo. He could play it on Batman. He could play it on,
And movies and TV. He's one of the rare people that simultaneously did both. Like,
this goes back to what we were talking about. It was slumming to be on TV, but there were very few number of actors. Who else did the crossover back then?
For some reason, my brain just went, I bet they were all English actors and they could get away with it.
There's also, or the guys who did variety shows, like Dean Martin could get away with it.
That was never considered a TV show.
That wasn't exactly. That was a variety
you had
show.
Vincent Price, obviously, but he was, not a actor.
Right.
I guess Roddy McDowall might fall in that same category. Because Vincent Price would go back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anyone else.
I mean, there were nobody. We don't want to oversell it. There was nobody who the kind of celebrity who you would go see a movie because this guy was in.
Yes. So no above title celebrities.
No above title celebrities. It was all with the mix that we'll be thinking. I'm sure as we talk, we will come up with more names.
Someone will
come
up.
To mind.
Yeah. But you would get like Kirk Douglas in a 1977 TV movie. He wasn't in regular movies anymore. Right. And you'd get a lot of those people on TV movies. At the time, but nobody big that I can think of. Or the people who graduated, we had like Michael J. Fox and even Robin Williams and those people. They never really went back to TV.
They never go back.
They wouldn't need to. Sunday, do we already go with? You went with?
I would have Ed Sullivan. We would have done just because there's not much else. And then then my dad would have been watching football. So I would have checked out. At that point, I'm in my comics.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Were you ever a sports fan?
Yeah,
or always a
sports
fan.
Same. All respect. Respect. But my dad was a jock.
Right.
And it skips a generation.
So same. Yeah. We had like Super Bowl. We had squares on the wall, and we're getting phone, and I just couldn't have been less interested.
Hand me a Batman comic. I'm good. Yeah.
Was it comics first or television first?
It was comics first.
Yeah.
Let me do the math on it. I mean, actually, technically, it would have been television first because my dad brought home a Batman comic because I'd seen Batman on television show, and it was wrapped at age, I think, I was coming up on 6 at that point. And so, no, 66, I was coming up on 5. And it was just, I brought the comic book home, and that's it. That's my entire rest of my life. I never, even after I discovered girls, I never stopped reading comics.
I wonder if part of that is, obviously, comics to me is the same thing. It was like, I don't remember. I remember the first comic I ever bought, but I was 2. Yeah. And I always liked them.
What was it?
It was Defenders 142.
Oh my God! So J.M. DeMatteis years.
Yep, DeMatteis. Yeah, it's the one.
Years. Okay.
It's the one that's the parody of the Fantastic Four #1 cover.
Yeah.
And so it's like a quarter bin comic. So whenever I see a copy, I always just grab one. I have like 10 copies of that comic.
I know.
I get that thrill of when I first bought it. And I went back and was able to pull some of the J.M. DeMatteis stuff from the earlier ones, which was great because it was all the horror stuff because he was using all the Marvel horror characters, which I loved. And those were the cheapest comics when I was growing up, so I was able to get full runs of Dracula and Werewolf by Night and all that stuff. Which
nobody was buying that stuff.
No one cared about it. In the Curtis magazines. Yeah. And I wonder if part of the reason, obviously when you see a comic, you're wired for that.
Yeah.
But I wonder if part of it was, I really love the Batman TV show. Yeah. I can watch it 2 nights a week because it's on twice a week. But with this, I can watch this anytime and over again.
And over and again. And I'm a kid. I get to do it at my own pace.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that makes comics a unique medium, is that you get to absorb the story at the pace you want.
Right.
It's not a communal thing. It's not, you can't read a comic with somebody else in the same room and looking at the same page. You're going to read a different page. You get to absorb the comic at the pace you want to. And as a kid, you get to relive that over and over and over again.
Yeah, in a world without video or reruns,
VCRs,
VCRs, that's kind of the only way you could sort of rewatch that show.
Yep.
And, you probably also inadvertently learned story by comparing the way that the two worked, how they would present them.
Yeah, although it was a much less of a difference between Batman comics and the Batman TV show than people give credit for.
Yeah, especially at that time.
People look back and go, it was all campy, it was silly, and you know what? I dare you, go back and look at the Batman shows
stuff out. Yeah.
That stuff, you would be stunned at how faithful that stuff was to Batman.
We get the multicolored suits, and it's not too different.
No.
Yeah, I think people always compare it to the Denny O'Neil stuff.
They think,
which is a couple years later.
It was just 3 or 4 years later. No. This is when you get straight up 60s Batman, it's the same. Yeah. It's the same tone.
It's very accurate. And I think that was the first comic book thing that managed to get the tone of the comics.
Yes.
Because none of the Superman stuff really did for me.
I never saw the Superman show until I was 17, because again, no syndicated. Yeah. So in 16, 17, I see Adventures of Superman, and nobody loves Superman more than I do in the world.
Yeah.
I'm the world's greatest expert on Superman.
Yes.
And yet, that show, to this day, there's 2 or 3 episodes I haven't seen. I can't get it.
It's so small.
It's tiny. And I remember by that time I loved the whole Superman mythos. So I'm like, well, where's Krypto? Where's Kandor? Where's the bottle? Where's White Kryptonite? None of that stuff is there. So it doesn't feel like, small is a really good way of putting it. It's a very small look at Superman's world.
It's always weird when you have those characters that really require a big story and you don't have the budget.
Yeah.
So you tell a very small story, which you can do if you're smart as a storyteller and make an interesting story every now and then.
Right. I don't think you can do it for 104 episodes in a row. No.
Which was the problem with the Hulk, too. It was like, the Hulk is fighting another bulldozer because evil developers are trying to get a kid's home out. It's the Hulk.
Also, it's Batman got it, and then another 20 years or however long before anybody got it again.
No villains. That was the big thing. There were no villains to match the hero.
The Flash TV show, the one in the
1990s.
Which, again, not a bad show.
No.
They were embarrassed to have supervillains. They were crazy not to have supervillains.
Right. And it was too late once they got him in there.
Yeah. So they did the last gasp, and they get David Cassidy playing the Mirror Master.
David Cassidy was Mirror Master, and Hamill was the Trickster.
That's right, yeah.
But that was the last 2 episodes.
That was we know we're going to go. We know we're going to come back, so yeah.
And the Gulf War killed that show, too.
Yeah, no kidding.
Preempted it, and they tried desperately. It was the only hour-long drama that started on the half hour.
I'd forgotten that. That's true.
Their desperate move was, we're going to do it at 8:30, and then people will be locked in, and it just didn't work. And I'm like, you're done. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And I think too, the tone was to Batman 89.
I was on staff at DC at the time and as an assistant editor, and we saw the pilot, and all we could think was it's Denny Elfman, and the suit is all built up around him, and it's darker and stuff. So clearly they were just trying to draft off the Batman vibe, which I understand if you're Warner Brothers. Batman's a proven property for you. If you're going to do Flash, let's make it more like Batman. But boy, did they strike out.
Yeah, because that's not the Flash.
No.
Like, that's not the... And I love the new one because it gets it.
It's the high point of my week.
Yeah, it's great. And I love that it's not... I was talking to someone about this the other day. They managed to get the adult story and the teenagers story all working and on the same level, and it's not just aimed at one. It's like true broadcasting, which we had when we were kids.
Yes.
And stuff so micro targeted now that it does have everybody.
It really, and it's unapologetic about what it is. There is no shame to the fact that it's about superheroes. That's a high point of my week.
It's weird for me to see the world as it is now, where all that, I mean, you can have the most obscure reference to continuity in a show now. I can't imagine what it's like for you.
When I was walking, I remember when I went to see the Wonder Woman movie, which again, fabulous.
I loved it. Yeah.
I'm walking down the corridor of the ArcLight, and as I go to see the Wonder Woman movie, I pass Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
This is the world I live in now. I live in a world where there is the elongated man on television. I'm done. I'm out. Like, I've won.
Yeah. We got Batmite, the Spectres on TV.
There's nothing I'm so happy. I never thought we would reach this day. Ever.
Yeah. I was like, when the Swamp Thing show came on, I was like, this is as good as it gets, and this is not good.
Have you ever made it through all 195 episodes, whatever it is?
No.
It's a lot of episodes.
It's a lot. And it was, one of the reasons, and I don't know if this is apocryphal or not, was that they filmed at Universal Studios Florida.
Yeah.
And part of the reason they did that was because we're filming a real show here that's part of the tours.
Yeah. Oh.
Superboy got canceled.
Exactly. Yep.
And they had nothing.
So
they just kept making it because they needed something to be shooting for people who were on vacation who would go through and see them shooting something.
It wasn't that Superboy got canceled. That was the end of the first season.
Yes.
They moved to Vancouver, but that first season
recast.
filmed in Florida, and it was ghastly.
Yes.
It was
it's
like high
really
school
bad.
play level. But I didn't care because
it's Superboy, which was totally out of continuity at the time too.
Didn't matter,
and they had no villains that first season.
No, but that first season was just a train wreck. It really was.
It's
like
terrible.
High school theater.
Yeah, and then it does get more. It's not. I don't want to say good for the later seasons, but it gets better.
They get a different Superboy. Who's a little more gravitas to him, and
we get some villains.
Neither of them, by the way. I think John Haymes Newton was the first guy.
Yep.
And I saw him on Desperate Housewives a million years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's the only time I've seen him. If you're listening, I apologize.
Yeah.
But it's the only time I've seen him since. And the guy who played, the second Superboy, Gerard Christopher, I think he's probably running a dry cleaners. I don't know.
Yeah. He was on for like 4 or 5 seasons on that too.
4 seasons altogether. So he did the last 3.
Even Dean Cain never really did much after.
No.
Lois and Clark.
Hosting a bunch of magic shows and stuff. And now he's a hardcore right-wing columnist on Fox News. Yeah.
You'll appreciate this. I did a con once, and these friends of mine were asked to do like a comedy show at the con, which is always a bad idea.
Always a bad idea.
So instead, this kid decided he was going to do a fake podcast recording because Dean Cain was there, of a show called the Cain-iacs. And the premise was they do this show every week about just loving Dean Cain.
That's pretty cool.
They only like season 2 of Lois and Clark. And so it was not a real show. They've never done this. And so they're doing this thing and they're talking like this really detailed stuff. And Dean Cain's just like horrified. Like he can't. And so my friend Nick, who's a really funny comic and a great musician, they're ending the show and he's like, all right, Nick, sing the theme song, which they don't have. So he gets up and just improvs and sings a version of I Get By With a Little Help From My Friends called I Dean a Little Cain with my friends.
Oh, nice.
And he was like, what would you do if Dean Cain was your friend? And they all start, and Dean Cain is so confused.
Of course.
He has and it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
That's amazing.
It was fantastic. I was like, this was all worth it. Just
that was totally worth it.
But yeah, it's no one, it wasn't a typecasting thing. It wasn't like the George Reeves.
No.
It just, no one really cast him.
No, exactly. No. And again, he was he was sort of anti-cast. I mean, he wasn't, he didn't really look like Superman. He had no spit curl. He didn't have the big, granite jar or whatever. No. It was a very odd show. But again, it was made for, it was the Clark Kent show.
Yes.
Guest starring Superman.
It was a romance show. The funny thing about that show too is that if you think about it, I think with the exception of the 60s, although I think the original show ran in the 60s, exception of the 70s. We've had a Superman show every decade.
That's true. Even and Superman's still part of the 70s and the Super Friends and stuff, but not live action. That's true. Unless you count the Broadway show that was adapted for television.
Oh, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman.
Oh dear God, that is military grade awful.
Yeah, or the Super Pup pilot they did.
Oh, that never aired. That it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman thing.
It's bad.
My parents gave me special dispensation. I remember I stayed up late because it ran at like 11:30 or something like that.
It was a big deal. They made a big deal out of it.
Burn it off, and it was just even then, my nascent sense of criticism and critical thinking was coming in, and I was like, oh, this is not good.
Well, because it was cynical. To your point earlier, it was a cynical take on, let's make it look dumb like a comic book for the dummy kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny when people, Annie's really, I think, the only show from that era that people still remember, but there was that huge trend of let's do Broadway musicals based on comic strips. You had the Brenda K. Starr one, the Charlie Brown, Your Good Man Charlie Brown, It's a Bird, It's a Plane, and just they're not good.
They are really not good. All props to you for trying your best. But Jack Cassidy, I'll watch Jack Cassidy in anything, dude.
Yeah.
But
he's not Superman. Have you ever heard the Captain America musical they were going to do with Hal Linden?
No.
Oh, this was, if you remember, the Marvel Comics had the contest be in the Captain Marvel musical.
I remember there was a shot of Captain America in his boater and a cane, like dancing across the stage. I remember that. Okay.
So they wrote it and all the songs, and it was going to star Hal Linden, Barney Miller, and the premise was this was old, over the hill, retired Captain America.
Okay.
And the role that the kid was supposed to be, which was the contest, was going to be like, we're training a new Captain America.
Oh my God.
And I think they did like one rehearsal, and we're like, no, this is not
I would sell
good.
my soul for a tape of that.
I've heard the music exists somewhere. I've heard there's some photos and stuff, but I am
if you ever come across,
I will absolutely, the first person that I will get to.
I've been writing Captain America off and on for 20 years, and I cannot imagine what a Hal Linden Captain America would be like.
Because first of all, Captain America with a mustache.
I know. No, good. Yeah.
I mean, I will say Hal Linden would have been a hell of a Doctor Strange.
Oh,
like that would have been really cool.
Yep.
Especially in the 70s, like when they did the other one.
Yeah.
A little older, kind of has that authority.
Not Peter Hooton, that guy, right? That terrible Doctor Strange.
Look like
movie.
John Holmes.
Oh my God.
It really does look like a porn parody with no sex.
Again, I apologize in case some relative of Peter Hooton is listening and takes umbrage, but again, a guy who never did anything before or since, and rightfully so.
It's real bad. As is I don't like the two Captain America TV movies from that time either. But we watched them.
That's all we had.
We were like, that's the character. All we had.
It's Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man, and he's 42.
Yeah.
And he's wearing his stuff outside his costume, and the special effects are horrible.
Awful.
But I didn't care.
Although I do love the Japanese continuation.
No,
that's the best. I wish that is just. I'm surprised and maybe they have, but no one's done a version of that like the Batmanga stuff. But they've done the Japanese Spider-Man.
I don't think they have.
Oh, they should. Yeah. That would be the best.
But that stuff's hard to find. I mean, the only reason we have the Batmanga stuff is that they appeared is because they finally, Chip Kidd, found someone with the source material, but nobody has that stuff.
Yeah, we'll just maybe create what we think it's like.
Yeah.
Just go in there. I still want to, we'll move on in a second, I'm sorry. I still want to see, and I don't know why Marvel hasn't done this, a 70s set Ghost Rider show.
Oh.
You could do a period piece Netflix show. It wouldn't mess with your MCU continuity.
No.
It would be perfect because it's such a 70s show.
Yeah.
You could go full out like eyeball helmet, like full on Evil Knievel, and it would be amazing.
And and what we found out about Ghost Rider over and over again is that is a breakout character that appeals to people who don't give a crap about comics.
Yeah.
But there is a huge biker culture that has adopted Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
For those of you who are listening, Ghost Rider is a guy with a flaming skull who rides a motorcycle and whips around and beats up bad guys.
Yeah.
The end. But you're right. That would go gangbusters.
You could tell the whole story. You could introduce Jesus like he was in the 70s and it would still work. You'd appeal to the horror crowd. You'd appeal to the way all the period piece stuff. I don't know.
And it's time. I mean, it's time because they couldn't do it for a while because Nick Cage did the two movies, and with all due respect to Nick Cage,
not good.
Not good. And you can't cast like a guy in his 40s at that point to be a superhero because he's going to age out. There's no franchise possibility there.
And it also, like, one of the things about Johnny Blaze, who was that he was young and cocky and thought he could make a deal with the devil and be okay, which a 45-year-old Nick Cage, you're going to be like, what's wrong with you?
You're grown up. Learn better.
It's and then they brought him into Agents of Steel, I think, but it's not
Shield,
Agents of Shield, but it's not the same demon.
No.
I think it's a different.
I think it's a different demon.
Yeah.
And so again, but that's you're right.
So you could still do it.
That's a breakout character.
Be fantastic. You could put in all the 70s Marvel horror characters in there.
Oh.
Maybe have Man-Thing show up. Who knows? So Sunday night you're doing that. Ed Sullivan, who's on that night? Melvin Douglas.
Okay.
Ileana Douglas, been on the show. That's her grandfather. He's on Broadway at the time. Johnny Mathis and Lena Cartrell.
Okay.
Edward Viella and Patricia McBride of the New York City Ballet.
Okay.
And comedians Jack E. Leonard, John Biner, and the Pickle Brothers.
John Biner's great.
Yep.
Who was the first one? Jack
E. Leonard.
Oh, Jackie Leonard. Yeah, you
I don't know Jackie Leonard.
The moment the moment you saw him, you would go, "Oh, I know that."
Okay,
guy.
he was one of those guys that showed up in like every show in the 70s. Okay,
and the Pickle Brothers are a complete mystery to me.
Don't know the Pickle Brothers, assuming that they're really funny just based on the name.
Let's assume they're as funny as Jackie Leonard.
I'm picturing guys who juggle pickles.
Yeah,
this will be fantastic.
That's comedy.
Monday night, what'd you go with?
Monday night, Bewitched again. That would have been.
Yep.
I mean, picked up the local feed, but. And then, again, Beverly Hillbillies, I would have done. It's what am I going to do? It's a sitcom. Andy Griffith.
Yeah. Beverly Hillbillies.
At that point, I think that was the tail end. I'm looking at that actual.
Yeah.
I think that was the very tail end of Andy Griffith, and then it just steered into
Maybery
the pilot within the fake pilot, right?
Backdoors.
Where you do the backdoor pilot, where it was Ken Berry.
Yep.
Coming on and hey, I'm going to be new to Maybery, and I'm going to take over the show, and it was Maybery R.F.D. and you were just not a bad show, but it was just like My Three Sons and all these other.
It's like having a stepdad who's a good guy, but he's not your dad.
Not your dad, yeah. And there's no flavor to it. I mean, the Andy Griffith Show was created by Andy Griffith, and it was based on his hometown. It was based on his living experiences.
Yep.
That doesn't
can't just throw someone in there. The only show I can think of that, and people will disagree with me that this is true, that it worked when they retooled it as a backdoor, is Archie Bunker's Place.
Yes.
Which I actually really like.
I think that was a good show.
And it was a great move to like have him run in a bar and just it worked perfect.
Yes.
And has my favorite moment in the whole canon where he finds Edith's slipper and starts crying.
I know, that's a great moment.
But that's the only example I can think of.
No, After MASH, no.
Trapper John.
No, Trapper John, no.
Yeah.
No.
Any of those after shows. And there's also Andy Griffith sort of split into, and Eugene Levy pointed this out, is split into pre and post stroke Floyd.
Yes.
Because he had that stroke, they never mentioned it.
Howard McNear was a really good comic actor too. That was a real tragedy on that show. And you're right. Then now we don't go into Floyd's very often anymore.
No.
And when we do, he's just standing there.
And he's I love SCTV. It's my favorite sketch show. And Eugene Levy says he always would play Floyd post stroke, which is so mean, but it's true. They do the Godfather parody. He's like, "O.B. his arms," and it's just like, oh wow, what a weird observation that you've done, but that is true. Bewitched tonight is crisis follows when Aunt Clara summons a toy flying saucer. A real saucer with two lop-eared gentlemen aboard appear, followed by two curious Air Force officials. So we get UFOs in this one. You can't go wrong.
That's what we thought aliens would look like in 1968.
Yeah, that aren't my favorite Martian. They're just guys who I assume look like bunnies.
I'm assuming they probably just were guys in green makeup with long ears.
Yeah,
like what they were.
Yeah, so. And then we have on Beverly Hillbillies, Granny nudges Jethro into a foolhardy goodwill mission, proposing marriage to the plain Jane Hathaway.
Oh my God.
Everything about that show, I just
wasn't she like 20 years older than him, by the way?
Oh, big time, yeah. I had this weird aversion to, and it's not quite a Southern show, but like growing up in the Northeast, like sometimes, like Hee Haw's the one I was example. I was just like, I don't understand this world.
I know.
It's not for me.
I lived there, and I'm not even sure I understood that world. It was not because it was Hollywood's idea of what the Deep South was like.
Yes, which I imagine's not true.
No.
The people that they were portraying probably didn't have televisions to even watch that on TV.
The only thing you get off Hee Haw is you get great musical performances.
Yes.
You get to see Roy Clark, and you get to see Buck Henry, and those guys like in their prime.
Yeah.
That was great, but the rest of that stuff, Ganilla Hutton doing her comedy bits, quote unquote, and
Minnie Pearl coming out with the...
Oh my God. I know.
And my dad loved Hee Haw, which was weird because he's like
Big Tennessee Ernie Ford fan,
I don't
was
know.
he?
He's a guy who grew up in Brockton, Mass, and was in the Navy. He was like, love the Hee Haw.
Okay, all right.
Like, all right,
God bless
whatever,
you, Dad.
man, whatever.
Yeah.
So Andy Griffith That Night is the first of 3 episodes with Ken Barry.
Yeah,
who will be
Jesus.
featured when the series is retitled Maybery R.F.D. But they're really telegraphing it to you.
Well, you know what's interesting too? You're looking here. We've started the new season.
Yeah.
And yet this is so they did the change like 4 episodes into the new season.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty smart.
It's very smart, and I can't imagine anyone else doing that
No.
because you'd get, well, not with the internet, certainly, you'd get people who would burn you alive.
It's really clever though. Make sure they're back for the season and then steer them into
It's a different show now,
Yes.
everybody. We
Yes.
just added RFD. Yeah, I can't. I mean, there's definitely shows that have been retooled
Yeah.
in the last few years that I've liked what they've done, but nothing like that.
No.
The last show I remember that desperately tried, and they had the most backdoor pilots out of any show ever,
Yeah.
all in one season, was Facts of Life.
No kidding. They were trying desperately, throwing any life raft they
Yep.
could out there. Yep.
They did 7 backdoor pilots in the final season.
Yeah.
And none of them took. They
None of
thought
them.
the last one was going to where like
Yeah.
Blair was running Eastland
Yeah.
and Seth Green's in that.
Yeah.
And it just, they're like, we're going to pull the plug.
Yeah, I
guys.
know.
we tried all the experimental
It's on
therapies.
life support. We're just going to kick the plug out. I know.
It's not going to happen.
What's on Family Affair that
So
night? Who we got?
Family Affair that night we have, where are we? Uncle Bill consults a child psychologist to get rid of Jody's new pet, a gigantic and invisible bear named Arthur.
Of course.
Yeah.
What a heartwarming episode.
Yes.
Every one of them did either the invisible pet,
Yep.
the invisible, or the guy we thought was invisible, and it turns
a
out he was
real
like
guy.
a real guy who,
Yeah.
a real homeless
It's like a homeless guy, that she's given food to.
Yeah, my courtship of Eddie's father did
Yep.
it. Andy Griffith did it. There was always that. Oh, you're got to be nice to the kid
Yep.
because he's got his imaginary friend. No, it's a
It's
guy,
a
vagrant.
homeless World War II vet.
Vagrant, exactly,
Yes,
yeah.
that she's feeding. Yeah, that's one of the good cliches. There's always trapped in an elevator,
Yep.
go on a game show.
Yep.
Which I think I've known 2 people in my life that have been on game shows,
Yep.
but sitcom world, at
big one,
least
yeah.
one. Yep, the invisible friend. Homeless steals your presents. That's a big Christmas
That's a big one, yes.
Yep. And then, or homeless is actually Santa Claus.
Yes.
If they're feeling a little more
generous, yeah.
Yeah, they'll go with that one. But the invisible friend has been a lost plot line, I think.
I can't. I have not seen Family Affair in 30 years, and I cannot imagine it is watchable. In
Mrs.
any-
Beasley, it's bad.
I imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, Victor French is great as an
Yeah.
actor, but he's not going to pull it off.
It's also weird. It's again that like you have I mean, growing up with no money too, I was like, you live in like a penthouse with a
kidding.
butler. Like, I don't care about you.
The other thing they would do in the 60s sitcoms that was a sure bet, actually, although it makes no sense whatsoever, is they would cast in the lead. They would cast the show around a leading man who'd sort of come off his Hollywood days, but was so young, but had no comic ability whatsoever.
Oh, yes.
Brian Keith
Yes.
is as funny as a coffee table.
Yeah. No matter who you put around them, it's
Yeah.
just going to make them look less funny.
Exactly.
Because now they're like,
Yeah.
he's not picking this up,
I hope
guys.
you tune in for Brian Keith and you stay for the kids, I guess.
Yeah.
Stay for Jodie Whittaker.
really isn't that funny either.
No.
Like, it's
But it was a common thing, right? They
Yeah.
were constantly pulling. Every new
Yep.
season had 3 or 4 shows that were built around a Hollywood star.
That's true. And even some that used to be, like Doris Day had 2 or 3 shows.
Yeah.
And
But
her
at least she
shows,
had some comic
she
chops.
did at some point,
Yeah.
but not by the time she was on the city. Like
No.
she had her last show, I think, was early 70s, and she's like a divorcee, and they it's not funny, but it's also not like sweet or
Yeah.
dramatic. It's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. The name value will get someone to a movie, but it's
Yeah.
not going to pull them in every week if it's garbage.
Exactly. I think it'll get them in for 1 week, and then you
Yeah.
gotta hope they'll stick around.
What is this?
Yeah.
That's why they need to bring back anthology shows.
See, there you go.
There's also a documentary here that I find fascinating.
Yeah?
It's on PBS and it's called The Opium Trail.
Oh.
And the report traces the route of illegal drugs from their origin in the poppy fields of Asia through Hong Kong into the Americas. So this is 68, so it's about heroin.
It's timely,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, imagine we'll probably see some hippies who overdosed.
I'm sure we will.
At that point, if Jack Webb had his say.
Yes.
Tuesday night, would you go?
Tuesday night is tough because it was a very sitcom light night.
Yeah.
And I think I would, if I'd been watching anything, I would have been watching It Takes a Thief.
It Takes a Thief, I don't think I've ever seen.
It's a clever concept. It's a great conceit, right? He's an ex-con who
as like a consultant.
or actually you build the show around him. Now he's the guy you hire to do, the sketchy job. He's the guy the cops use to steal the diamond that they can, use to frame the real criminals or whatever.
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad with
with Robert Wagner.
Robert Wagner, yes.
Right. I like that. Maybe it's the same character he played on Heart to Heart. He made all this money,
and then changed his name.
Yep, because he had a criminal background.
Powers,
70 Powers.
Yeah. And that's it. That's Tuesday night in the show, because then I would have gone to bed at that point.
They give him a pretty big job this episode.
Yeah.
Mundy, who's
Alexander Mundy, by the way, is a great name.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if it's a play on Friday from Dragnet.
I don't know.
It's Mundy, but sounds like Monday.
Let's say yes.
Sure. Is met by a maddening development after successfully penetrating an Iron Curtain prison. The microfilm he has to retrieve from a captured SIA agent is en route to a Washington embassy, which Mundy will have to infiltrate. This is big stakes.
How many words is that synopsis? That's not really a synopsis.
That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing. I don't need to watch the show now.
I mean, I presume he gets the microfilm.
Yeah.
It's funny because microfilm was such... I was like, only spies in libraries had
I've never
microfilm.
in my life seen, other than, like you said, a library. But I can't imagine microfilm was ever really used. Micro dots. They were big on micro dots, too.
Yep. And those were little teeny photographs, right? And those had such an air of like cool spy stuff. But like, it's basically a USB drive. Like, you never heard a spy thing where they're like, I have the SD card.
But how cool. But we were, back after the 60s, was all about spies. And that was a big, again, Man from U.N.C.L.E. spun off from James Bond, and it was... all kids were doing spy They were selling and kind of selling like little spy cameras.
Kids, even the Saint or like
It was you wanted to be a spy back then.
I mean, the Avengers.
We were still in the Cold War.
That's
so
true.
The spies had a purpose for existing.
But it was always the weirdest thing about all the spy stuff, unless it's a show I'm overlooking, was they were always kind of low stakes.
Yeah.
They were always light. For a really heavy thing.
Yeah, it's what was the Bill Cosby?
Oh yeah, I Spy.
Again, that survives only on the charm of those two guys.
Yeah,
because the plots are paper thin. Yeah, and there's zero stakes.
They're really not any different from Don Adams. Get Smart, but not played comedically.
Right, but the same level of stakes.
Or the same ridiculous sort of plots, like without knowing that they're doing that.
Yeah,
but
the Prince of Bahafistan.
Yeah,
is
very strange. And when I look at spy shows now, we have like Homecoming.
Yeah,
like Burn Notice.
The Americans. Yeah, real hardcore stuff.
Yeah,
they're not stealing microdots, dude.
No, there's no microdots in microfilm. That's really odd. That I wonder if that was a way. Well, I don't think it'd be that nefarious, but like of all things, why have that be the prominent genre? Because now that you mention it, it sort of did replace the Western in the 60s.
Totally replaced the Western, yes.
As like the prominent.
It was sexy. It was, it was glamorous. We were looking for some. We were still clinging to the. Remember, we're quickly barreling into an age of cynicism.
True.
With no glamour.
Yeah.
There's no glamour in the 70s at all.
Yeah.
So we're
oil crisis.
Exactly. We're finding something glamorous to hang on to.
Yeah.
Something sexy and glamorous. Because the movies, you're still doing Our Man Flint with
James Coburn. The Dean Martin ones.
Matt Helm.
Yep.
So there's still that's still, and again, I remember as a kid being 7, 8, 9 years old, being fascinated by I want my little spy camera.
Yeah.
My little spy pen.
I mean, I guess it's very futuristic because there's that tech piece.
Yeah.
Well, you're still sort of authoritative.
Yes.
But this may be overly cultural studies looking at it, but also is gray.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as black and white now. It's not as cowboys and Indians, not as white and black hats, because now there's double agents and a little bit more ambiguity.
I think you put your finger on it, though, when you said it replaced the Westerns.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it, but it absolutely replaced the Western, because you're still, as a kid, you're still playing a role.
Yes. And the bridge show,
and
Wild Wild West.
By the way, you're still using guns, and you're still using, you're still,
as a villain, and
right, so exactly, so it's still
heist.
The same thing. Yeah. So Wild Wild West, you're right, Wild Wild West, which, by the way, we will get to on Friday.
Okay, yes.
But that was the bridge.
Yeah,
that was a bridge between Westerns and spies.
It's exactly what it is, which I've never even really thought about till this very moment.
Call.
That's so weird, and then it continued in Europe, where you have like Diabolique and all that kind of stuff, to the point where, and obviously you know this, but I don't know if the listeners do, where the Avengers was so popular, they changed Wonder Woman for 2 years?
Yeah.
Where did she get depowered?
Here's what happened. So the Avengers TV show,
Huge.
Emma Peele and Steve, and it crossed over. I mean, British show.
Yep.
Crossed over here, showing here. And meanwhile, the Wonder Woman comic, this is 68, 69, is like all comic. After the Batman TV show bottomed out, all comic books in America just started sliding towards oblivion.
Right.
And they were desperately trying to figure out something to do with Wonder Woman. Hey, let's make her Emma Peele.
Yeah.
And they did that for 2 years. And while they were really interesting, good stories, that ain't Wonder Woman.
It's a different character, but she's basically a spy.
She was totally a spy.
Doing kung fu.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so weird.
I know. She had the worst mentor of all time, the incredibly racist I Ching.
Oh, God.
Like a little Asian man in a bowler hat.
I love Mr. Mind.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted like a cool Mr. Mind plushie.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it is kind of so racist looking though.
Really is super racist.
And I'm like, people would just be like, why do you have a racist Japanese snake in your room?
I know.
Like,
Worm. He's a worm. He was a little worm.
Yeah.
It's a little Japanese worm
But
with
it's
his
like
little Japanese
little
glasses.
radio and but I'm like, but he's so cute. It'd be good if her mentor at the time was actually Mr. Mind.
That would've been cool.
Yeah,
Where
it was
were you?
like trying to
Where were you?
manipulate her.
Where were
I know.
you?
I should go back in time and write comics from DC in 1968. And that was all you had for
That's
Tuesday,
it,
right?
That's it. Yeah.
Charles Kuralt has a big special on.
All right. What's he talking about?
Tentatively scheduled, so they
Okay.
don't want you to get
okay.
too excited.
Okay.
It might not be on.
Right.
Charles Kuralt. Last summer, CBS gave newsman Charles Kuralt a film crew, a camper truck, and free reign to poke around the nation on the back roads. The result is the first season of Who, What, When, Where, Why, a montage of personal vignettes. Kuralt tunes into the accents, actions, and philosophies of the Americas. Residents of Reno create a much-needed park in only 48 hours, and Massachusetts citizens honor a local hero with a scholarship. I kind of like that.
I kind of like that, although I will offer you that Who, What, When, Where, Why is the worst title for a television
Awful.
show I've ever heard.
Yep. There's like, I don't even know what else you'd call that. 5 W's?
5 W's. Charles Kuralt on the road.
Which they did later,
Yes.
yes. I've revisited some of those. Someone gave me a bunch of tapes of some 70s and 80s episodes of that.
Yeah?
And they're really fascinating
Yeah.
because they're very pure. And although I'm sure there's some news manipulation there, I don't think the news crews were savvy enough to really reality TV it.
No, nor were the people who were being interviewed
Yes.
savvy enough to know, oh, this is what reality stars
Right.
do. We're just going to be ourselves.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I think the time that they made it was that time where we still had people who were around in like 1900.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
interviewing like a barber who's 90 and was born in 1898.
Right, exactly. Tell us about mustard gas.
But he's in a
Yeah.
modern world,
Yeah.
and it's that stuff's fascinating, and we
Yeah.
don't, you just don't get anything like that now. Or it would be like some obscure Netflix documentary that nobody watches. Avengers are also on Tuesday night.
Right.
This one is the directors of a construction company are being murdered one by one. Among the confusing clues, an oversized footprint, a magic wand, and a clown mask.
Why would you not watch that? I want to watch. I'm calling the.
I'm going to call that one up.
I'm calling. Good night, ladies and
You need to
gentlemen.
watch this one now.
Yeah.
I'm already on board. That's how you do a synopsis.
Yes. Yes. I want to hear about Alexander Mundy and his microwave microfilm.
Microdots.
Dots.
And a show that I loved and no one ever talks about, The Invaders.
Yes.
Which is
one
great.
season, right?
Two
seasons.
seasons, yep. Larry Cohen worked on
Okay.
it. And it was a straight up alien invasion. They're like sort of, but it's the X-Files more or less.
Do you remember how you could tell the aliens?
I forget now.
Remember, they had two thumbs. They didn't have a
That's
small
right.
finger. They had two thumbs.
That's right, which is super freaky.
I know. That's under budget. You could do that.
Yeah.
Fairly simple to do in prosthetics. So you didn't have to do any special makeup. And yet, instead of a little finger, they had an extra thumb.
This is the second season, so this is when it's already come out that the aliens are here.
That's another star that did nothing before or since. And remind me his name.
Roy Thinnes?
Roy Higgins,
Roy
right?
Thinnens, I think.
I think.
Thinnens? That's
Oh,
it?
Roy Thins. Yeah,
Roy
yeah.
Thins, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and was great as the lead in that.
Yeah.
I mean, backed by the Pentagon for the first time, David is commissioned to set up peace talks with the invaders. His mission is jeopardized by distrust from the aliens and treachery on his own side.
I will give them credit for the fact they leaned into change.
Yeah.
The premise of the show first season was, I know aliens are coming. I cannot convince anyone in the world.
It was
And you built-
Kevin McCarthy at the end of Invasion of the Body
Yeah.
Snatchers.
So 26 episodes of this. And then at the end of the first season, or we turn over a card, and now the whole world knows. So now we got a whole new premise for the second season. Good on you.
Yeah. I did you watch Alphas?
Yeah.
That they did that for season 2 for Alphas, and it was a much better season.
Much better season.
Yeah, they had him outed. It's a show I recommend if people haven't seen it. It's basically X-Men, but they out on a live TV at a congressional hearing. I think that there are basically mutants.
Was that an Irwin Allen show? I think it was.
Invaders was Irwin Allen. Yeah.
What a genius that guy was.
Oh yeah, Time Tunnel.
And my favorite, Land of the Giants.
Land of the Giants. So weird.
My favorite thing about Land of the Giants is it's people from our world going to a parallel world where they are really tiny.
Yes.
Do you know how many episodes they got out of this?
It was a few seasons.
78.
Wow.
They had 78 episodes out of this.
Wow.
So do not tell me that my idea doesn't carry. I mean, don't tell me my idea is too small.
Yeah.
Bite me.
This premise should be done after I'm finished saying it.
78 episodes of we are tiny people in a big world.
Oh no, it's a spider.
That was the end. I know.
We can't climb out of this water glass.
I have no doubt in my mind they would have rescued microfilm at some point or
yes, or it would have just been film for them.
Right. Well done. Well played.
Microdots are just newspapers. Combine Land of the Giants with a spy movie.
There you go.
And here you go.
Yeah.
All the small people have to almost like two kids in a trench coat to spy to pretend to be one.
Oh, that's good.
Guys, so they're almost and they're almost in like a giant robot suit because they're spies from like a smaller dimension.
You're an unsung hero. So.
I know. I made so much money today with these. Wednesday night, what'd you go with?
Well, Lost in Space. I finally get to watch Lost in Space because Lost in Space is against Batman.
Yes.
For the first 2 seasons, the first 3 seasons of Batman, right?
Yes.
And the only 3 seasons of Batman. And so you didn't watch Lost in Space. You saw the back half of Lost in Space.
Right.
I did this experiment when the box set, the
Blu-rays, which looked beautiful.
Which, by the way, one of the 10 greatest days of my life.
Yeah.
When the Blu-rays came out.
We never thought that would happen because of all the weird rights stuff. We were told
repeatedly it'll never happen.
Yep.
So that it happened is a miracle. So when the 50th anniversary of the show hit on January 12th, 2016, I actually, through the help of YouTube and my own, I actually made the watching list for that. That's what I would have watched that night.
Nice.
I relived that, and I put it up on YouTube. I think there's still a playlist by me on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
Somewhere.
I'll link to it.
Here's what you would have been watching. And LBJ give a State of the Union speech, so Snorville. But Lost in Space was crippled by the fact that Batman was 7 or 8 7 Central Time. And Lost in Space was, 7 to 8.
Yeah, it was. When I had Mark Goddard on the show, we talked about that, and he contends still that Lost in Space became a kids show because of Batman.
Have you seen the first season of Lost in Space?
Yeah, it's not too. It's in black and white, but that's about it.
It's marginally grittier.
Yeah,
but it is. Yeah,
I think his main issue was that the show started to focus too much on the doctor and the robot and the kid.
Then that's fair, and that absolutely happened. But that had
nothing to do with Batman. That was because that was who was watching the show.
You could even make a case that it was they had to follow Batman if they had been black and white for one more season.
Yeah,
and they had to make the shift to color to keep up with Batman, but they went to color at the same time.
I get the impression he thought it was going to be like an Adam Strange show with him as Adam Strange,
Fat chance,
without him knowing who Adam Strange is.
Yeah.
And,
is he listening? I hope he's not listening.
No, he's not, no. And it's just wasn't going to happen. And he told me a story when I had him on that he hated the guy who played the robot.
Really?
Because he thought the guy thought he was a big shot. Because people love the robot.
They love the robot.
So he would always orchestrate these situations where the guy would be stuck in the suit because he needed help getting out. He's a little person. And so he was like, we'd call lunch and he'd be in there for an hour.
What a jerk.
I'm like, the guy's just working a job. He's a little person too. Like, he's not going to get a lot of accolades.
No.
He gets to play a major role. Like, let the guy have his moment.
I'm not 100% sure I even know his name.
No, nobody does.
I had it a second ago when you mentioned it.
I can't. It might be in the
Billy
credits.
May.
Yes,
Billy May?
yes. You're correct.
But then again, people know Billy May's
Bob
name.
May.
Bob May. People know Bob May's name more than they do Mark Goddard's, frankly.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Take that guy.
But it was he told me that on the show. But
What a jerk.
He was telling it in like I'm gonna high five him kind of way, and I was like, no.
I was at a convention years ago, and I was, signing books and stuff. This is, at the comic convention, and Jonathan Harris was a guest, and I didn't know what to say. I wanted to say something, but you never want to go up and just go, I like your work.
I love you all. Yeah.
Anybody can say that. I'm just trying to find something, and I don't know what to say, and I'm sitting there signing away, and all of a sudden I sense that he's right over me, like looking over my shoulder, interested, and he just says, I don't forget what it was, but he said my boy somewhere in that sentence.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to do the voice.
Of course he did.
I'm not going to try to do the voice, but and he starts talking about signing autographs and being a quasi-celebrity and this and that, and he's leading the conversation. I'm just eating it up. That was my great Jonathan Harris moment. What a sweet man. The other reason I got to see Lost in Space, I was hot to see Lost in Space on Wednesdays because it was on Thursday for the longest time, and we did like tent revivals.
Right.
My family was like hardcore, like
So it's
Baptist,
family,
Southern Baptist. So Wednesday you'd see Batman. Thursday, not only do I not get to see Lost in Space, I only get to see Batman half the time. So
that's brutal.
I'm watching some revivalist.
Have you caught up on it? Are there any shows that you missed as a kid that you've now with access you've been able to catch up on?
Good question. Lost in Space was one.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I try to, and then you realize, oh God, I didn't really miss anything after all.
Yeah, some of them really don't hold up. Although I will say, I've been surprised at how many shows hold up.
Yeah.
Because I expect almost none, and good amount do.
You got to remember too, though, the culling is already pre-done for you because
True.
if they're available in mass media now, then that means that there was an audience. But
True.
For every one of those shows, there's 14 in there.
Oh God, yeah. Odette,
as Good Morning World, with Joby Baker. Yeah,
He and She.
Yeah.
With John Astin.
That was a great show.
Was it good? I've never seen it.
It was Richard Benjamin and Paula Prentice.
This won an Emmy.
And they were married. They were real life husband and wife.
Dorothy has a bachelor party. Yeah, I've never heard of this show.
I've seen a few episodes. It's really smart.
But it's probably impossible to see.
One season. That's it. In and out.
That's what I'm like with James at 15, which I really love.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Great show. And was really hard to find, and I hunted it down, and I got it, and it really does hold up.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, really good.
And yet, can I find it at Best Buy?
Never been released.
Can I find it on YouTube even? Not really.
Nope.
Yep.
And even the tapes I have are from A&E re-aired it in like the first year A&E was on when they were like, oh, we don't really have it in the show.
We have any content. What do we got?
We don't have enough British shows. We'll put this on here. So you're watching that. You passed up Glen Campbell.
I would pass it like a good. Was it a good time hour yet, or just Glen Campbell?
It's just Glen Campbell. Okay. It's the first year he did it. It was a summer series.
That's right.
So they did it as a summer series.
It was Smothers Brothers replacement, I think it was. Okay.
Yep. And this was to tell the Smothers Brothers to get in line.
Yes,
because they were getting a little political.
Yes.
So this is Glen Campbell. It's just for the summer. This is the last episode of the summer.
Who's on?
It's funny because given that it was a replacement for the Smothers Brothers, Pat Paulson's on it.
Okay, that's
so they've
fun.
just continued some of that stuff. But it's the summer series final hour is a country music concert. Performers Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Three, the Stoneman Family, Lee French, and a composer guitarist John Hartford, and Pat Paulson. Pat Paulson this is really odd. In a comic vein, presidential candidate Pat Paulson zeroes in on advocates of gun control.
That's
in
awesome.
1968.
Pat Paulson, literally, he really did to run a presidential campaign during this time. And it was hysterical. No one in the world would have... He's a TV star who decides he wants to be president of the United States. Imagine that.
That would never happen.
That would never happen
Yes.
now.
What Twilight Zonian world he's speaking of. And he was known for being like very sardonic and zero charisma. Like that was the joke of it.
Again.
But was on the ballot in places. And it was like an actual thing. It was very, very strange.
Yeah.
It is funny how that carried over from the Smothers Brothers. They just kept, because it started on that.
You say he played the same. He played a character, but the character was Pat Paulson.
Yeah. I will. We go to flea markets and stuff a lot, and I still often find Pat Paulson for president things. That's like one of the more bigger things that I usually find. So that's a good night. Green Acres is on, which I love that show.
That again. So what spun that? All that spun out of, let's see. Beverly Hillbillies gave us Petticoat Junction. Yep. And then Petticoat Junction gave us Green Acres, right?
Which was a much better show.
Much more absurd show.
Yeah. And Ann Magnuson calls them Sir Rural.
That's good.
But it's a smart, weird show. Like, they even got away with stuff on Green Acres, like when Arnold Ziffel the Pig got drafted into the Vietnam War.
Yep. By the way, we will circle back around to the concept of once more hanging a sitcom on an actor with no comedic chops whatsoever.
Yeah, but was good in that case.
They cast around it,
yes,
right? Yeah.
And they would use him because nobody gets angry
No.
like him.
No.
And he just is this seething ball of rage,
Yep.
Eddie Albert. And that's another show my wife can't watch because she just gets so uncomfortable because she's like, Mr. Haney's just such a... Oh, like she sympathizes too much with him, but yeah, he's just like everything, like nonstop,
perpetually angry.
Yeah, and it works, and he should be because those people are enraging. There's also that famous episode where the opening credits were written on all the things in the scene.
Yes,
and they would comment and break the fourth wall all the time, which wasn't totally new because what was at that time was
that was for primetime. That was a pretty absurd show. They were leaning into the absurdity of things.
Absolutely. And you really didn't get that on TV for a couple decades because I think the last show before that did that often was like Burns and Allen.
Yeah,
but that's because they were very like theatrical.
Right, Ernie Kovacs.
Yeah,
Kovacs.
Yeah. But yeah, it was so weird.
Have you been to the intersection where Kovacs died since you've been here?
No. Where
the
is
intersection of, I'll know it as soon as your audience will know it. It's Santa Monica, and I want to say, I'll find it on the map.
Okay, yeah.
It's just like right where the Westfield Century City
is
right now.
Yeah.
So that's where he turned. He took his left turn into oblivion.
Man, have you ever seen the TV movie they made about him with Jeff Goldblum playing Ernie Kovacs? It's actually really good. It's from 82 or 83. I
don't watch Jeff Goldblum in anything.
He's great as Ernie Kovacs. Right. And I love Edie Adams. I loved her book. Her autobiography is great. Yeah. And really funny. There's a picture of her and JFK.
Yeah.
And she wrote all the captions.
Yeah.
And she goes, if you're wondering, he asked. I didn't. But he asked. Like that's just the best.
Great.
The best. And that was supposed to be him and Ernie Kovacs in Mad World.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, and Sid Caesar stepped in.
Another lost comedic genius. That guy.
So great. I've told this story before, but I made my parents take me to meet Sid Caesar when I was 2.
Yeah. he was already 95 by that time.
He was doing dinner theater.
Yeah.
And I found out he was doing this dinner theater, and I begged my parents, and they took me and I met him, and he signed an autograph, and I got a picture with him. And
it was cool that at age 2 you knew this guy came over on the Mayflower and you knew him.
Like, gotta go see Sid Caesar.
Yeah.
Flying Nun is also on, which is a show I've revisited, and I don't even want to say it doesn't hold up because I don't think it ever was.
I don't think it ever held up to begin with.
Yeah, it's real weird though.
It is, for those just tuning in, the concept is she's a nun and she has her particular hat. Please tell me what a nun's hat is called. I'm sure.
Habit.
A habit, thank you. Her habit has wings, and because of her specific body weight, she can fly through the air on wind currents. That's the show.
She had previously played Midget, Gidget, which stood for Girl Midget.
No.
The surfers were like, hey, you're a girl and you're a midget, like a girl midget, like a Gidget.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
That was worth doing it.
There you go.
Now you know.
Just for that. But that was Sally Field was small, so she was playing these small characters.
How do you get a show? I've watched 2 or 3. And everyone, they're all like Lassie episodes because they all depend on something is in peril.
Yep.
And only a flying person can get the message to the people who need to help us in time.
And it's weirder than that, too, because it takes place in Puerto Rico.
That's right.
During, like there's, like, war going on. Yeah. And it's almost like Casablanca. There's this guy, Carlos, who owns a strip club.
Yeah.
That's, like, their fixer. And he's Catholic. And he wants to be a good Catholic.
That's right.
He's so there's, like, this really weird underlying sort of seediness that I don't think they realized was there. And it's bizarre.
They must have been, and forgive the pun, they must have been drifting off of some movie that wasn't The Flying Nun.
Yeah.
But it feels like are you drifting off of Sound of Music to some degree?
Yeah.
The nun aspect?
It's got to have, it strikes me as one of those shows where someone pitched a show, they didn't go, another person pitched a show, they liked a piece of it, and they're like, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
You and you and you, we'll do it like this.
And we got Sally Field under contract, we got to have something for her to do.
How about you show about a revolution in Puerto Rico, has nuns in it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Sally Field flies.
Perfect.
Oh, okay.
I know.
I loved the Punky Brewster cartoon from the 80s. It's Punky Brewster. It was a cartoon about her with a magical creature that granted wishes.
Yes.
And I don't know if this is true. I haven't been able to find anyone that worked on that show.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced that someone went in and pitched that show. They said no, and the person went, but the girl's Punky Brewster. And they're like, sold.
Now we're out of 1968, but this is a whole subgenre of sitcoms that got turned into cartoons after their lifespan ran out. and they were always ridiculously absurd.
Yeah.
Gilligan's Island,
Gilligan's Planet.
Gilligan's Planet.
Yep. Laverne and Shirley and Mork and Mindy also were planet
Happy
travelers.
Happy Days was Fonzie and
Time
Ralph
travel.
They're trying with a dog.
With a talking dog, Frank Welker. Yeah.
Jeez, God.
Yeah.
Can you imagine doing that today? You're going to do
No.
a Breaking Bad cartoon?
Or like the robotic Three Stooges. Remember, it's just like, why are the Three Stooges robots?
I want to see a cartoon Curb Your Enthusiasm
Curb Your
with a
Enthusiasm.
talking dog.
Yeah, or that would be great. Or like Breaking Bad, but now it's in space and they're in a band. We just sold that. It's huge.
We are burning gold here.
So good. And the Rifleman's on, which I've never been a Western guy, but I've tried to revisit the Rifleman. Just because I was sort of fascinated by Chuck Connors because he's such a weird career. He was on the Boston Celtics.
Yes.
Got injured, moved to Hollywood, became an actor. And Rifleman was the secret agent man to Branded's The Prisoner.
That's right, it was.
And obviously not as good of a show,
Right.
but was that sort of cultural shift into the gray areas where he's like, well, maybe I did bad things when I was a sheriff, and it's
With Westerns, you could get away with it. Maverick, any of those shows. They could have shady pasts.
I think part of it, you think people were more okay with it because it was historical?
Yeah. I think you're right. That's exactly it.
Do you think that would have been,
It wouldn't. Yeah, it's not going to play in 1968, but it's 1868.
When you, obviously you didn't call them Elseworlds when you started doing those kind of alternate history things.
Yeah.
But was that part of, like, you're like, because so many of those are like mostly in a different historical era.
Almost all of them are in
Yeah.
sort of like,
Do you think that is almost a similar thing where you can be more...
Yeah, you can go wild.
Gray?
With it. I mean, the whole Elseworlds thing came out of. I was editing a book called Secret Origins, which is an anthology book at the time,
Which I loved. The
Thank
Phantom
you.
Stranger one is one
Thank
of
you.
my...
Oh my God, that was my favorite book to edit.
Yeah.
And so I got an annual one year that I had to fill. I got 80 pages worth of stuff to fill. What do I do? So because we've already done like the origins of Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. So what if we do alternate history origins of them? We'll do what if Superman had landed in Russia? Which, by the way, take that, Mark Miller. I was ahead of you by 20
Red
years.
Sun.
And what if Wonder Woman did that? We couldn't find one for Flash to save our lives. What if Flash is in the Crimean War?
Yeah, I
Who
don't know
cares?
what that would be,
But Batman as fighting Jack the Ripper in
Gotham by
that became
Gaslight.
Gotham by Gaslight. So then that whole spurred out a whole ton of Elseworlds, and we did like anything, you did a bunch of good ones, and then once you ran that horse, dead, then you keep doing it.
Well, we all have our night gallery.
Yes, and then you're all running out of these, now, and near the end, it really, I got at one point, I got a list of the Elseworlds that were in development in DC that never,
that never came out?
Pulled plug, and it was insane. It's a Batman 32 AD.
All right, so nothing like... what was the Jonah Hex when he was in the future?
Yeah.
But that wasn't even Elseworlds.
No, that was just Hex.
Let's make him Mad Max.
Make him Mad Max.
Because his name looks like Max.
So he's a Western guy who's trained. And, as a concept, not a bad guy. Western hero transported 200 years in the future into a Mad Max future, but it's not Jonah Hex.
No, and he adapted way too easily.
Yeah, I know.
He's like, no problem.
I got 6 guns. I'm good.
I mean, it's funny when I compare those two to like What If.
Yeah.
Which really seems to be the big difference between DC and Marvel. And What If was always a continuity point. It was always a plot point that was different.
Like, what if Spider-Man had made in this famous story?
Yeah.
What if Spider-Man had made this? What if Aunt May had died instead of Uncle Ben?
Right.
What if,
and not these huge conceptual changes.
No, it wasn't like what if Batman lived 100 years ago?
Yeah. And it is, now that I think about that, that was sort of a first way to make those characters a little more ambiguous.
Yeah.
And it might be just people swallow it more when it's historical. I don't know.
It's not quote unquote real either.
Yeah. They're like, well, people in the past, they weren't as good.
They weren't exactly.
I don't know what it would
They
be.
were sketchier back then,
they were a
so.
little sketchier. And for some reason, Batman always seems to be the one that works the best in any era.
Batman is a character who survives because you can tell any kind of story you want to with Batman.
Yeah.
You can put him in space. You can put him in the past. You can make him a detective. You can make him an action hero. There's nothing you can't do with Batman.
Yeah, everything works.
There have been more stories told about Batman than about any other character or figure in recorded history.
Yeah.
I mean, Hercules has been around longer, yes, but how many Hercules stories are there really?
4.
Right. 12 labors. There you go. But there's, Batman. Batman
true.
is again.
When I lived in England, I was talking to Grant Morrison one night, and he went off on a real weird tangent, but I know, you'd never know. He also offered to see if he thought he and I could take an entire pub of guys He was. What did he say? His quote was, I think you and I could take this pub. Should I kick it off or something like that? I was like, no, please don't.
Please don't put on.
But it never occurred to me, and he put it this way where he said, these characters are alive. And I was like, all right, buddy. But he's like, no, they've outlived their creators.
Yes.
They've outlived everyone who's written them. They exist outside of the people telling the stories about them.
Yeah.
And it's true. And it's so bizarre that and for television, there's almost no one who's done that. None of the characters have endured unless they've been based on a comic book. Like Superman has been on TV every decade.
Yeah.
And in different iterations, and they all work.
I think you have to leap forward to like James Bond when you start talking about characters who have had that sort of longevity in pop culture. But again, I stand by my Batman statement.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Any other character or figure in all of human history.
Batman's the only one, too, that I think can work in different formats simultaneously. Yeah. So like when I look at like the Brave and the Bold cartoon,
which is goofy,
right? It was on at the same time as that CG cartoon or like the Batman or whatever.
Exactly.
And the movies were out at the same time. And they all worked. They were all Batman.
I love the idea that he's elastic enough where the audience doesn't get confused because he's both silly in this place and goofy and serious in this place. You can't pull that off with many other things.
No, I can't think of anyone else that you can really pull that off with. Even like other cartoons, like Bugs Bunny can't do a serious show. They tried.
They tried.
That was
tragic.
Wow. But yeah, and there's almost none of these here that could do it either. And I'm looking in like Daniel Boone or these sort of historical figures, and it just doesn't.
No.
And they're characters for like Daniel Boone, huge.
Yeah.
Davey Crocket, huge. No one has attempted to revisit or reboot those that I can think of.
I can't think of a Davey Crocket attempt on Fox TV in 2005 or anything like that. No,
but you'd think they would.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but it's a huge property.
Be careful what you ask for.
I don't want to watch it
because it'll be
Davey Crocket 2029.
Exactly. It'll be Davey Crocket, but he's like a cannibal.
Yeah. It's his hat is sentient.
Yeah,
it's like a sentient raccoon that is somehow like his
giving away gold.
Oh, pure gold. It's his skeets, basically. That's his hat. Where are we? Friday night, the final night of the week.
Friday night of the week. Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
That was, it's like spies and Batman and Westerns all kind of rolled into one.
I don't think people understand how insane Wild Wild West was.
For again, kind of the Lost in Space model, right? The first season, black and white.
Yep.
Fairly straight.
Yeah.
Shift into color next season, and it's campy beyond it. Victor Buono on that show, and Victor Buono, the funniest character actor of, guest actor of any guy in. And do you know how old he was back then? Do you picture Victor Buono? Victor Buono is King Tut, he's
got to be one of those guys that turned 30, looked 60, and then looked that way for the rest of his life.
He was like 30.
Okay.
He died in like the early 70s before he was 40.
Yeah.
It's uncanny.
You look old when you're young, but then when you're old, you look young.
It's just amazing to me. Yeah.
You age and stop.
And you could also get away with having a villain who was a little person.
Yeah.
Make a little Loveless.
It was crazy. This one is The Night of the Vipers. The agents track a dread band of marauders to Freedom, Kansas, which has apparently been spared from attack because of its saintly mayor and no-nonsense sheriff.
There you go.
Yeah. It was almost like that show Otherworld. Like, it wasn't just Western. They'd go to like whole weird ghost towns.
It was a spy show. I mean, the conceit, right, was President Grant has made them Secret Service agents, the first Secret Service agents.
Yeah.
They had their special train with a special car. The only time we ever seen anything the train was in the special car with all its gimmicks and
gadgets and steampunk.
Stuff.
It's steampunk.
Yeah, it's total steampunk.
And like I think the movie blew it for this. Like if they had made that now, and full steampunked it, it would be an enormous franchise.
That Wild Wild West movie tanked is a crime.
Yeah,
because you burn that franchise for another generation.
Yeah, and it just wasn't. Like
steampunk Western. That's sold.
You don't even have to say anything else. No. And then if you had gone in, if that movie hadn't been made and tied it to an existing property, there'd be a bidding war for that.
Yep.
But nope, killed by Will Smith.
So that's thanks Will. Yeah. So that's Friday. I would have done probably Get Smart at 8:30.
It's funny because Invaders is on again.
Yeah.
They have the second part of that season, and I wonder if Batman had started that. Let's do the 2-parters, 2 in a week, because no one really done that
no one had done
before.
that. Actually, it was. I mean, it went through several iterations. It was going to be, an hour long.
Yeah.
And they decided let's try on the. Well, first they decided let's do 4 nights at 15 minutes a night.
Right.
That was their first pass because I got that first script. That's insane.
That would not work.
Because there's nothing else that starts at 7:15.
Yeah.
So that was their first, and they said, okay, well, let's fold it into, let's do the cliffhanger stuff they did in the 1940s.
Yep.
And let's do 2 nights a week. But yeah, that was the only show doing it.
Yeah, and then it looks like a bunch of shows tried to do that after, and then it didn't last. Because
you would
that's
think
crazy.
You learned that Batman tanked and burned.
Yeah, because My Three Sons is also airing twice that week, but not in a way that would be a cliffhanger.
No.
Uncle, what's his name? The two different. Yeah, that's a show that's so weird because it started in the 50s, black and white, and by the time it ended, was like super hippie, and the kids were too
wearing
old.
their hair a little long, and they're wearing the leisure suits and stuff. Yeah.
The premiere of a fantastic show, The Banana Splits, is that night.
On primetime?
They've done it in primetime. Meet the Banana Splits. So it's Friday night, which my guess is they were going to start airing it for the first time on that Saturday.
Sure it had to be, yeah.
Because this was before they started doing those Saturday morning preview specials, which they started in 73.
Those are the best.
Those are my favorite thing
Yep.
ever. And so they were just doing a premiere of the show the night before.
Great.
And they're also showing the TV show Off to See the Wizard, which is a show I can't find anyone who remembers.
No.
It's a show based on The Wizard of Oz. It was a weekly show.
A weekly show.
Yeah, and this one is Cinderella's Glass Slipper, conclusion of the musical fantasy based on the fairy tale favorite. Tonight's portion of the film includes they're like going around and trying, it's like the Wizard of Oz world interacts with other fantasy things.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
Like early crossover stuff.
Yeah, and I've never found anyone that remembers the show. I can't find anything about it. I think it only aired in 68.
Ruby slippers, glass slippers. I see the connection there.
Yeah,
That's,
and
that's really interesting.
A very strange thing. Well, that's the whole week.
That's the week, man.
Is there anything you watch now that you're just like completely addicted to, or?
There must be. The moment you ask, of course, it all
Yes,
flies
of
out of
course.
my head.
Yeah,
I'm
obviously.
thinking about what's, John Oliver. I will
Yep.
watch John Oliver. That's my news right there.
Yep.
And I am still, the concept of hands on a hard body, right?
Yeah.
Where you got a truck and the guy who's holding
Last
on
one
to it
holding? Yeah.
That's me in The Simpsons.
Okay.
I have watched every episode of The Simpsons. I will go to my grave having watched every. I will outlive
even the
that
2000s
show.
when it was
All of them. Now it is a point of pride.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's a lot of bad ones now, but
Yeah.
I'm this far in. I can't stop now.
You know what totally freaked me out was I haven't watched the show in years, and I revisited it on a plane, and they had cell phones, which of course, why not?
Right.
But it was so jarring to me, because these characters have been around for 30 years, and and they haven't changed, and it was like watching someone re-edited the Flintstones and all of a sudden they have cell phones or like are driving 60s cars or something. I was like, whoa, what's happened?
When they went to HD, they suddenly went to widescreen HD, that was a big, huge thing. This doesn't look right for The Simpsons.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this, Futurama?
I know.
Which I do love.
So there you go. That's kind of those are my addictions right now.
Yeah, that's not a bad addiction to have. It's better than like if I'm watching Pawn Stars all night or something.
No, I think I was addicted. I will every once in a while find something that is just so bad that I have to watch it for a little while.
You'll hate watch?
I was addicted for about 3 weeks to a show called Who Wants to Date a Comedian?
Oh, yes.
It was world class awful.
Yeah. As a comedian, here's the answer, everybody. Nobody.
First off, nobody.
Yeah.
Because first off, you're living hand to mouth. It's like it was this tawdry show. It was produced by Byron Allen.
Oh yes.
I mean, tawdry is the word for it. It was this your classic setup of the blind date setup, right?
Yeah. It was like Love Connection.
No, it's Blind Date.
Oh yeah, Blind Date.
It was one guy. And then 3 girls that had to each act of the show, you weed out another girl. But they didn't. The whole show takes place in like Byron Allen's backyard. Near his hot tub and his badminton court, and that's it. And they're the seediest people. And also we're now fully in past Blind Date. Now we're fully into the era of everyone in real life who wants to be on TV knows they have to play a character.
So they're auditioning as well.
All auditioning. and it is just I was horror watching it for like a dozen episodes, and I just my nose started to bleed. I had to stop.
My favorite guilty pleasure show, and I weirdly haven't mentioned it that much in the show. It's on CBS on Saturday afternoons, and it's called The Inspectors.
I know about this show.
About the postal inspectors and the kid in the wheelchair.
Again, talk about getting 78 episodes out of a premise.
It's crazy.
They're postal inspectors.
But they have like a bat cave. In the opening credits, the kid's dad died, who was a postal inspector, and he's taking over.
I know.
But he goes like in some evil, I don't even know what, some evil anti-postal group, but the literal line, he goes, "Who robbed me of my father and the use of my legs." And it's like this weird cliche postal.
It's straight. It's a straight show. It's
not a comedy.
Inspector CSI. It is. By the way, now we're making fun of it.
Yeah.
Your postman and my postman both are dumping our mail.
I'm sure they are.
Right
yeah.
But I can't believe you get season after season.
It's crazy,
out of the show.
And it's co-produced by the U.S. Post Office.
I know,
which is no one does anymore. Like we used to get that in the 50s all the time, but they don't do like government propaganda.
No, but at least it's accurate. At least we know it's accurate.
Yeah, it is.
That's phenomenal.
Postal inspectors carrying guns. They have guns.
Solving crime.
Yeah.
Every week, the postman solves
postage due. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
My postman can barely get my letters into my mailbox and not my neighbor's mailbox.
Yeah.
No offense. But
most postmen I know are afraid of dogs. They're not they're not taking down international drug cartels. So we'll wait till the movie comes out of that. That'll be the Wild Wild West franchise.
There you go. That was my week, sir.
Thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure. This is a great deal of fun.
There you go, Mark Waid. What an amazing guy. So smart, knows so much stuff. Really fun, really nice guy. Could not have had more fun talking to Mark. Definitely, if you've never read anything he's done, you need to remedy that right away. Absolutely get Kingdom Come, but really anything with Mark Waid's name on it, you will pick up and enjoy. I guarantee you. In fact, if you don't like it, I will reimburse you the full cost of what you've purchased. And I know that I will never have to make good on that promise. In addition, I promise you a brand new episode each and every Wednesday, and that will continue. And I promise you, speaking of comic books, that I will be at Denver Comic Con. So make sure you come out to that if you are in the greater Denver area. For example, if you're Pam Grier, who lives in that area, come to Denver Comic Con. Molly Ringwald's going to be there. That's all you need to know, actually. Molly Ringwald, fantastic. Ron Perlman, it's a really good lineup. I did the show last year, had a lot of fun. I'll be running some more panels, be doing some TV Guidance Counselor episodes. So look for those. Let me know if you're gonna go, and I will try to stop and say hello. It's a great con for a great cause too, for Pop Culture Classroom. It's the only con I know of that's a charitable organization and uses the profits from the convention to help at-risk kids and literacy programs and just amazing convention. And so I am very happy to be a part of it again this year. And as I said, you can email me. I didn't say this. I don't know why, as I said, but now, as I've said, you can email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or at ken@ikenread.com. On Twitter, we are at TV Guidance, as we are on Instagram. I am Kenneth W. Reed on those two things, and you can search TV Guidance Counselor on Facebook. Let me know if you have any questions about the show. Also, thanks again to the Patreons. You guys are amazing. It is such a help, even the littlest bits, and if you don't contribute, that is perfectly fine too, but for those of you that have, I cannot thank you enough, and we'll see you again next time for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
And the Pickle Brothers are a complete mystery to me.